There we go. Hey, gang. Just getting a bunch of messages. Yeah, so uh, yeah, I don't usually see email within the hour before the show. So, Ed, if you're listening, I'm sorry about this, but yeah. 99.1 WDJY. I'm listening to KSHP again. We're supposed to be on there by 4 minutes after. They do some news thing just like WTAN does. And they said they were going to start right at 8 o'clock now. So I don't know what's happening, but I'm listening to some commercials and whatever else on Vegas. Today, we've already added Discord if you want to check that out. It's at the Yerger group and then the Yerg's radio voice channel. It's supposed to be video on there as well. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Put it in the chat. Give us a call. 1-888-88 Yergs. And today we're headed home. Last week I was home in Pennsylvania for an early Thanksgiving. Today we're going there and back here to Florida for the two stories we'll talk about today. One is Bob Casey apparently finally conceding after trying to include a bunch of votes that the Supreme Court in their far-right decision said was not legit. I had been following that through Mark Elias and his law firm. And apparently it's basically the same shenanigans done by the Republicans that they did in Georgia. And we're about to add WTAN, and we'll get started.
Me your questions.
Oh. Yeah, that was actually funny. I hit the button a little early. But yeah, so Matt's here. Blake's on the way. And we'll bring them out in a second. We're just too close to WTN. I don't want to miss it. And I'm still kind of peeved at KSHP in Vegas. This is of a month. I don't get it. $8 to 10 a.m. That's when I'm supposed to be. They just advertised another show. I think we're going to do an on-the-air call today. Ed, you ready? Yeah, I'm not hearing anything else. It must be us. Welcome, WTAN. If you're just missing, or if you're just joining, rather, this is supposed to be week number 2, where we've expanded to KSHP in Las Vegas. Of the 4 weeks we've tried to do this, this is week number 3 that they've screwed something up. So I think we're going to call them on the air and probably chew some ass. This is not what I'm here for. I'm paying to be on the air at these stations. And I just lost one. That's another news item, or possibly anyway. WWPR, who joins us in an hour from now. This might be our last show with them. They sold the station, and I'd like to. I'm reading the guy operating our board at the Tan Talk Network. I'm shooting for that, and in fact, if I don't renew with them, I'll divert that money here in Tampa, because I'm certainly not going to reinvest it in Vegas with those assets. This is a month. I should be in. I did a 2-week contract just to get started with them, and just so we would be on the air by Election Day. They screwed that up. They screwed up our election night coverage. And now of the 2, I should be on a second contract with them already, which would have been a lot longer than 2 weeks. But they can't even get that right. So, yeah. Let's bring out the guys, and maybe we'll have them sit with us and do some collective ball busting. Matt, you there? Well, he's not. So I guess, yeah. Let's. There he is.
I'm here.
What's up? What up?
Here we are. Let's do this. It's another day.
I don't get what's going on out there. Yeah.
With your radio stations.
The one in Vegas, Tan Talk's been great. They're patient. I actually owe them money. And they're
paid
like,
you better pay them to come collect. You don't want those people in Vegas to come collect. They know how to do that properly.
yeah, well, I know how to deal with it properly too.
Oh, okay. That's the Secret Service coming out in you, huh?
Yeah.
You hem them up.
The good old days.
Or are you the grassy knoll?
I remember I was on the grassy knoll, actually. And I was on the X mark.
I bet you were. Don't say that out loud, man. Were you the second shooter? Is that what you're saying?
Second, third. There's no way Oswald did that himself. I stood on the X mark that's in the street, which represents the location of the headshot. You are looking through a very large tree that is in full bloom in November. It doesn't lose its leaves. And in fact, it's also got flowers. There's no way he made any of those shots, let alone all three. But I mean, that's just the ice cap, or the tip of the ice cap of all the other actual facts that are now available. That basically proves, one, he was, and this is actually known throughout the government, that he was an intelligence officer in the Army. Or excuse me, in the Marines. And that he was probably, and this isn't proven as much as there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that I've sent a lot of people to jail on a lot less. It basically was proven he was working for the government on November 22nd, which, by the way, is today. Oh, well, wasn't it today, the 22nd? Well, I know we're coming up on it.
Yeah, today's the 22nd, yeah.
But wasn't that the date of the actual assassination? Yeah, November 22nd, 1963.
Well, that's weird that we're talking about it.
Yeah, really.
I mean, that definitely wasn't planned because I have no clue that today was the day.
Yeah. So, but I stood on during the break. I'll try to get the commercials from my phone, or during the break, I'll try to get the photos from my phone and show you exactly what that looks like. There's no way he did that himself.
Well, hopefully with Tulsi in there, DNI, we're gonna get the scoops, the truth of this information. I want that. We all want that. We want aliens, UFOs, UAPs. Let's get to the bottom of all this.
And someone with knowledge just puts their hand on the president's shoulder and says, "In due time, Mr. President." And by that time, they get so engulfed in their job, they forget about it.
I guess that's how it works. So. All right. So what are we talking about today, sir?
So Blake wants to talk about the things going on with Pennsylvania, but it's kind of old news now because apparently Casey conceded. I want to give this radio station a call and find out WTF.
On air? Why don't we do that during the break?
No, do it on the air. Embarrass these knuckleheads.
All right. Let's do it. I'm excited. I'm excited to give them a call.
They're still... they don't even have a phone number available. And this has got to be like the worst. And not the worst. I've seen worse in brokered radio. But we are also we have added another network, and that is my own Discord server. I know you're not a fan, but still, we're branching out, trying new things.
No, I am not a fan. Discord is in my opinion, is just a cluster, and I don't know why people like it.
I think you do have to know a little bit more about technology and such and how to navigate through Discord. You're right about that.
Sure. It's just I don't know. I don't like it. I just never had a good experience. Look, when Discord came out, I was one of the first users, and I think that because of that, not the first users, but but I was in the first batch before they started
Yeah,
actually,
first
I think,
batch.
streamlining it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a great user experience, and maybe it's a lot better now, but it's always gave me a bad taste in my mouth about like just how to use it, and I don't know. I just don't like it. That in Slack is just another just horrible
I haven't even heard
program.
of. I got to send you an invite for Chatter. That's another thing that we're going to be on soon enough, and I really like it. WTAN just turned on the delay just in case we misbehave. I can't even find a phone number, and the irony is, I used to have one. I've called these people. I don't know how they have a radio show with a call in that doesn't put a phone number out there.
Well, maybe we want to get to our topics then.
Oh, this is painful. General rules, tags. They put hashtags on the. I did. You know what? Keep the money. It's one show. I'll do without you. Pickup hours. Apparently, this station is really focusing on how to or something with shopping. Like you shop on the radio. I don't get that. But apparently, in Vegas, where people make a lot of money gambling, they want to spend it right away instead of doing something intelligent. And you can't even. There we go. All right. Ooh, a little fast on the button there. All right. General Manager Mark. I know. Come on. Ah.
Jurgs, what are we doing, man? Let's get to our topics.
Yeah, this is Jurgs from Up the Middle. I'm supposed to be hearing me right now and not a shopping show. Yeah. This is week number 4 out of 2 that something got screwed up. Yeah. Where'd he go? So anyway, this is what's happening, and I see why a lot of people are going to internet radio and social media and social audio and just podcasting. How hard is it to be at your job by 8:00 in the morning? All right, Matt, you still there? Where'd you go? Are you protesting? What's going on?
I'm here.
All right. So in Florida is the other one. Matt Gaetz is finally gone on some level. He resigned from Congress quickly. What was that, last week?
Mm-hmm.
While being named and spending all of a week as a nominee for Attorney General. Because that's a great pick. I mean, we talked about that last week, about how you would name somebody who's got an arrest record. He squirmed his way out of actual convictions through dad and some other connections with the DUI that we showed a picture of last week. But also now there's this investigation going on through the House. And I think the chair, when he was being grilled by CNN, let something slip.
What did he say?
They were about to release it, or they were supposed to release it. They were going to vote on releasing it. And of course, it went straight down party lines. And there's no majority in this committee. It's 50-50. And he said that it wasn't finished. Well, what does that mean? How are you going to release
Who said what wasn't finished? I don't understand.
the chair? The guy, whoever is the chair of the ethics committee,
Okay.
was racing through Capitol Hill, trying to get from point A to point B without being grilled too hard by CNN. And I've seen the guy on CNN and in person. I know who he is. I just don't know his name. Kind of like Indian looking guy, dark complexion. Salt and
He's a
pepper.
congressman?
No. He's a CNN reporter
Oh, okay.
that was following the chair of the committee. And it was asking questions about what the vote's going to turn out, and are they going to release it? And they basically said he's trying to stifle it. And in the process, he was asked if the report was even finished. To which he said no. And the CNN reporter fires right back with, how are you going to release a report that's not finished? And he had no answer for that. And they weren't going to say anything, except he had also let slip, apparently, that they're basically not releasing the report. And the official position of the committee was no comment, even though clearly skipped on that. So the Democratic co-chair spoke outside her office and said this was straight down party lines. And the chair made it sound like it was a group opinion, like everybody agreed that it should not be released. And she basically called BS, that it was not the case. It was straight down party lines. And if this guy is going to be the chief law enforcement officer for the country, the Senate should know how many laws he's broken himself. And she went on to say about how just because he wasn't actually prosecuted by the Justice Department doesn't mean that there wasn't enough there to do it. And as you probably know, we feds pick and choose our battles. That's why the Justice Department has such a high conviction rate, is because they get to pick the best of the best. Not just the investigators, but the cases. If they decide not to prosecute, it goes down to the state, who may be interested, or elsewhere, or wherever. Or, in this case, not at all. So I sit back and I think about these guys that are putting this under a carpet. And I go, do you have a daughter? How would you feel as a dad if she was naked on the side of a pool with a congressman who knew she was underage? And when I say naked on the side of a pool, obviously there's more to it than just that. We're not just naked. And that's not just by the testimony that was given by the girl, but by another who passed by, seeing the two of them, and gave the same testimony. But we don't need that. And I mean, that's enough. What attorney general has ever had that scandal going into their spot as attorney general?
Well, apparently none, because he dropped out. So
Yeah.
Crisis averted.
I guess and Blake mentioned this last week, or you did, his intent to drop out, to withdraw from Congress, to resign from Congress, is because once he does that, the ethics committee no longer has jurisdiction over him. And then there was, X amount of prior examples where the committee, in good faith, released it anyway because parties needed to know the behavior of the member.
Right.
Or in this case, the member's member. But it got squashed. And in all,
I got it. The member's member. I got you. There you go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It took me a while.
And in all other cases, the speaker blatantly stayed out of it until this one. Apparently, Johnson was making multiple phone calls to the chair, who would have deflected in the past any such influence. And this time, took it to heart and did what he did. So Gates drops out. Rubio leaves the Senate for purposes of being the Secretary of State. And so there's a Senate seat open that that Trump wanted Laura Trump to fill, and still does. And apparently Rick Scott is being a good boy and jumping on that bandwagon as well. DeSantis, I don't know if he's being coy. I don't know what he's doing. But he's not just up and saying, yep, she's got it, off you go. Pack your bags, you're going to Washington. He's made it known that he's going to wait until January. So now Blake is, when he suggested we talk about this today, Blake is like, well, why?
Did you say DeSantis is planning to wait till January to appoint for Senate?
Yes. And if we're all behind the whole Trumpmobile and we're all on the Trump train, why are we not putting Laura Trump in now?
Well, because DeSantis has never been a part of the Trump train. That's the thing. He's been playing nice. And there's just no reason why DeSantis would appoint Laura Trump. There's two things that I think is very weird about this whole thing. The first one is, why would you move Laura Trump from the RNC, where she is the co-chair, and then move her away? That you already see that the RNC is one. If I was Trump, you want one of your people there, right? Number two is they're obviously doing something better than Ronna McDaniel. So therefore, why would you move her away? The second thing is, and you can put anybody there in as a loyalist senator. So why would you move her away? Number two, the problem with this is Ron DeSantis. It doesn't seem like he wants to play fair. Like, well, fine, you give Laura Trump the seat, but why? Why would you give Laura Trump the seat? Why not somebody else? Why not yourself? He is termed out. He isn't the president. He'll be chilling in Florida at his home, like doing something. I don't know what he's gonna be doing. And so why wouldn't you just give yourself the seat? And
yeah, but can't he come back after sitting out a term in Florida?
I'm not too sure, but that's still 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 28. You're gonna be just chilling, doing nothing for 4 years. I mean, writing a book, doing some tours, maybe making some money. I get it, but I mean, you don't want to stay in the public eye. So if I was DeSantis, I would appoint myself.
Yeah.
I'll appoint myself, go into Senate, and then I'll run for senator. Which I think that it's a better shot that he would win a Senate seat than win president in 28.
Yeah, because I agree with that, because his reputation in Florida is not that great either. But he's more easily repaired in Florida only than Florida plus 49 other states.
I mean, I don't know. So there's just a couple of things. The second thing is, or the third thing is, I don't know why he would, and everybody's saying, oh, maybe Matt Gaetz will be the senator. They're going to appoint Gaetz. And again, why? Why would DeSantis do that? There's no incentive, in my opinion, or at least that we see on the surface, that incentives give DeSantis the reason to be a friendly to Trump. He's not getting any appointments in the cabinet. He's not, he's going to be termed out. it just seems like this. Like if I was DeSantis, I'll be making power plays for myself more than I would be giving a crap about Trump.
Yeah, and they're not friends. I think we know that. It's just, and I got obvious personal stories. I mean, that dude stood in my driveway after Helene and told me help was on the way. And that was the last that I've heard from the state of Florida.
Was he wearing his little boots?
He wasn't in the white ones, no.
No, he wasn't wearing his little boots. Was he wearing his little lifts? Was he trying to look 5'10"?
He was shorter. He's definitely shorter than me. But yeah.
I just don't. This whole thing is I don't really know what's going on. But the Matt Gaetz dropping out was not unobvious. I just think it just puts like so much more on the board of what's going to happen. And then you guys have your AG stepping up, right?
Yeah.
What's her name?
I don't know. I just saw that last night. Florida.
Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Pam Bondi, 59 years old. Looks like she's going to be the next AG. And yeah.
Well, okay, so at least there's somebody with experience doing something criminal, not to mention being an actual attorney general.
Yeah.
So find a qualified candidate, or at least almost.
I think, but again, what's the difference between her and say Gaetz? I mean, I think at this point, besides allegations on the back end that if the DOJ is not bringing them to charges, it makes me wonder how solid those allegations are, or how compromised the DOJ is. But anybody that he's going to nominate is going to be pretty much willing to do or follow the same plan of attack that the Trump administration is going to do. So it just seems like a person in an empty suit. Doesn't matter who's going to be there.
Well, but as far as prosecuting Trump in the future, of course. But I saw, and I hate doing meme quotes, but I saw that one of the, I think probably Occupy Democrats or whoever floats across my my stream occasionally, said if we had to listen to 4 years of Hunter Biden's sex life, is there an echo? If we had to listen to 4 years of Hunter Biden's sex life, why are we not listening to Matt Gaetz if he's going to be the Attorney General?
My opinion is that there's probably too many skeletons in people's closets that they don't want a lot of stuff to come out.
Who else was at the pool party, et cetera, et cetera?
Who else was at the pool party? Who else is taking part in dumb things? I mean, look, I think what was it last year where we had that one dude getting let's see here, pleasured in the Senate chambers.
Yeah,
remember?
That was a staffer.
That was a staffer. Yes. Yeah. But we don't know who was on the other end of that. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right.
Look, things are happening in these offices and in these Senates or the Senate and the House chambers with, the staffers and everybody else that isn't being talked about. And look, I don't care if it's consenting adults doing these things. I don't care. It doesn't make anything change of if they're doing their job. It doesn't matter. But the hypocrisy obviously is that everybody plays the game of we are this moral high ground Puritan that is obviously here to judge everybody else. And so I don't know. I bet that a lot of this stuff isn't coming out just because they don't want to incriminate other Republicans and Democrats alike.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't doubt that. I'm doing the math here quick, actually. It is 61 years ago that there was the Kennedy assassination.
All right. 61 years ago.
I'm just getting rid of that tab on my browser right now. DC's, for as much as he's trying to drain the swamp and make things more efficient, I don't see anything much change. And that was actually one of the other what do we see Doge doing? But hit that probably in the second hour, or at least
I don't see that Doge's job is to just drain the swamp of that kind of stuff. It's more to close loopholes of spending that is gone crazy. So I don't think they're going to be coming down on. I mean, Elon has what 11 baby mamas with 25 kids, and they're all living in like a compound now. I mean, he has his own little thing going on. So
except the trans one that dissed him.
Who's that?
I don't know her name. I think a male to female daughter.
Oh, right. Sure.
That is speaking out against him because of him speaking out against trans and other sort of alternative lifestyles. All right, when we, I got to take a break. When we get back, Blake will be joining us, and we'll talk about Pennsylvania and get his wrap up on Florida and who he thinks the second senator to the U.S. Senate from Florida will be. 99.1 WDJY and WTAN, the Tan Talk Network, WDCF. We'll be back after these words. House smell nasty. Do you want to freshen it up a little bit? Go to aromabypeter.com. Check out all of Peter's candles. It's what we burn here in Studio Yergs. I'm burning right now leather scented candle. That's right, leather scented. So go to aromabypeter.com/Yergs and check out his candles today.
I'm Jane Stahl, retired English teacher, and with my BFF, Susan Bebeck, we manage Studio B Fine Art Gallery in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We showcase the art of hundreds of local artists, publish books of the poetry, prose, and art of local writers, offer classes, art parties, workshops, discussion groups, cater dinners. We've even hosted a wedding. And we're here to be the go-to place for friendship, learning, and fun in our community. Virtual tours of our exhibits are available right here on Yergs Radio. Let us introduce you to some amazing art and artists.
Check out Jane Stahl and everyone at Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Please visit our YouTube channel, Talk TV 24. How's your website doing? I'll tell you how mine's doing. It's awesome. Yergs.com is gotta be the best website for anybody in podcasting or any sort of broadcast solo journalist like me. How did I get that? Limit Break Digital. Limit Break Digital did my website with Yergs.com. They did YergerGroup.com. They take care of my marketing, my branding, and help me get the message out to you. Go to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs for 10% off your next project. That's a $3,000 site, Yergs.com. And you can get 10% off that by just going to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs today. Talk to Jay. That's my guy. We all got a guy, and Jay's mine. limitbreakdigital.com. All right. You want some merch? Oh, this is book stuff. Let me put the other one up there too. If you're looking at the screen right now, you should be seeing two QR codes. One is they're both actually from my Wednesday co-host, Philip Blackett. He's written a bunch of books on how to get along, and that's why I'm excited to introduce him to David Beckmeyer. Get some background music here. That's why I'm excited to get him introduced to David Beckmeyer. Damn it. Oh, these slides. I need someone working the board here. Shout out to Ed at WTAN. Philip is a Trump supporter. Harvard-educated young man, actually getting kind of senior now, a bunch of kids, published author numerous times. Not just one of those guys that, I wrote a book, blah, 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 and that's it. They think they're famous. Then they're the next Stephen King. No, this guy actually is an expert on this stuff, writes it, passes it off very well, very articulate person. You can check them out Wednesdays with me right here on Up the Middle. The QR code in his top corner of your screen for those on video is for his merch, and it's really cool. It's not just like, it's not MAGA stuff. It's actually the man practices what he preaches. It fits for both sides of the political spectrum. If you're listening to this, you can go to Buy Blackett, BLACKETT, buyblackett.com/Yergs, and get all kinds of mugs, shirts, coasters, whatever. I don't know what the what it is for the oh yeah, it's a real long one. I'm not going to try to I'll put the link to it in the show notes, and it's a long ass link. So if you want to check out any of his books, go to yergs.com, get today's show notes, and yeah, we'll you can check them out from there. All right, let's bring the guys back out. I saw something else in our notes for today. Kind of regards with Pennsylvania, and also with Pennsylvania, and also JD Vance has made some stupid statements, and that is just blatantly ignoring Supreme Court or any other court rulings. With us again, as always, on the left, Matt Deemer, host of Daily Crypto News, and on the right, Blake Fisher, getting back from the doctor's office. You looks like you got a little bedhead too. You just waking up? What's happening?
No, I still have the top off the Jeep, so.
Oh, there we go.
So it's wow. Despite it being like 45 degrees outside, it's nice. I like it.
I was going to say that had to be cold.
It's not so bad. You just crank the heater up. It's not too bad.
Is it a hard top?
Yeah, but I have it off right now. So
yeah, so it's not the easiest to put back on then.
I mean, I've got a hoist in the garage, so it's not too hard. But I was running too late this morning. I wasn't going to be able to get it on. I mean, it takes me about 5 or 10 minutes, but yeah. So and I actually don't mind it this time of year. It's kind of nice.
And then you went to the wrong place.
Then I went to the wrong place because this doctor has 2 different offices, and I went to the wrong one, and then they had to check and say, so I was like, I would have been here on time if I just would have gone to the right place. Yeah. But
did he have to take a look at your one member?
No,
your one buddy.
You missed that.
Sinus surgery. So he was digging around in here. I think I had a bad reaction to the sutures inside my nose. So, and I had it's been a whole thing.
Well, leave your fingers out of it, and you won't have the bad reaction.
Right.
But Dr. Yergs, there you go. Why'd you even go, Blake? You had Ross right here for you.
Talk to Yergs. I could have just done that.
I know.
So you actually, I wanted to school you guys on why I think Trump is the next Hitler.
Oh, we're gonna get schooled.
Is that where we're going? We're going straight to Hitler. Okay.
All right.
But you actually put some. You actually put some good topics in our.
Yeah, maybe we save the Hitler stuff for later in the show because I'm all for talking about it. I just feel like we'll derail and we'll not talk about any of these other things. I think these other things are important to talk about, and they're kind of got buried this week. I feel like.
So for as popular as he was, the Republicans put up a good enough contender to unseat Bob Casey in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
and it was close. I think I know what you're talking about as far as them ignoring the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Give us a background on at least what you got.
Well, so basically what happened is there's a law in Pennsylvania frankly, Pennsylvania needs to go down to Florida or another state and maybe talk about some election law stuff because Pennsylvania was kind of a problem in 2020 in the sense that they changed some rules. They had some problems with it. Honestly, Trump's team would have been better off fighting some of the rule changes that people were doing pre the election when they had the opportunity to do so. Then they tried to fight those changes after the election. They missed their opportunity in 2020. A lot of the complaints on the right of rigged elections are now coming from, counties were changing rules without the state legislator getting involved. And okay, that's all fine. But those are all things you have to sue for before an election. And sometimes specifically with certain dates before the election.
I was going to say, Didn't we solve this problem?
No, we really didn't. This is something, and by the way, this happens in every election.
Exactly. Us on this show, didn't
Oh.
we say federal elections need to be federal elections?
No,
And
no,
that's
no,
it?
no, no,
And they
no,
need to
no,
be
no, no.
uniform
That's a
across-
terrible, terrible plan. That makes it hackable. That makes it. There's all sorts of
I
reasons. we
didn't
should
say
use that.
put it online.
It doesn't
By
matter.
the way,
It doesn't matter if
by
it's
the
you.
way, there's a video you need to see.
'Kay.
On YouTube. I talked about it earlier this week. Do you know what bullet ballots are?
No.
A bullet ballot, it can be a legitimate ballot. It's just a political science descriptive term for Blake Fisher when he walks into a voting booth or up to the partitions at a table, however it's done, and you wrote for Donald Trump. That's it. Boom. And it goes.
Just one, and don't vote
That's
for anything else.
That's all you're there for. You don't care about the state. You don't care about the local. You don't care about anything else. You're there for MAGA.
Was there like a higher percentage of those this time or something? Or
Huge.
okay,
And guess where they were?
probably in the
All
swing
the
states.
swing states.
All swing states. Well, yeah, we should talk some about that too, because there is some post-mortem election stuff that I think is really wrong about what campaigns did well or what they didn't do well and stuff. And I think it's pretty obvious that both campaigns did kind of what they could in the swing states. If you just look at like that's where we had higher voter turnout, as opposed to the
Yeah.
non-swing states had lower voter turnout than 2020. That's why you have a lower number overall, but it was a higher number in the swing states. So there's some interesting stuff there. But yeah, I would imagine it did go up because I think there were a lot of people. Trump was counting on people that didn't vote in 2020 or 2022. And I'm sure he got a lot of those people. And obviously, if you're that low informed a voter, which is what I said was going to swing this election, was very, very low information voters. They don't know what any of these other things are. They don't know who these people are. They honestly probably don't even know who their state senator is. I mean, like their senator in the federal government from their state. So
I'd have to go back and watch the whole video again.
yeah, send it to me. I definitely would be interested.
It's an interview on, and I guess the guy whose show it is kind of leftist, which is, of course, Benny Johnson ain't putting this video out.
Yeah, I mean,
But the guy and I think the guy's got to be from Penn State, because he talks about how you do something like this. And of course, he's saying that these bullet ballots are fraudulent. And
he's claiming they're fraudulent.
yeah, that's what his
Yeah, that's the whole point. The Starlink is going over there and manipulating ballots.
I don't know if I buy that. I think it's more likely that there's just a bunch of low information voters.
Apparently he's studied 2016 and said, forget about what Russia did or didn't do. Hillary lost. Period.
Right, because that's
He's
what
done the same
happened.
in 2020. He's in the same in 2020.
Yeah.
And forget about stopping the steal. Biden won.
Yeah.
In 2020.
Yep.
And it was because of the numbers of known legitimate ballots. And what he's saying is, and this is a guy who's basically, he's from Center County, Pennsylvania, and he's some statistic scientist is what they call it, or number scientist or something like that is what the title on the thing gave him. And I'm thinking, okay, he's in Center County. This guy teaches at Penn State. Or why would he be some sort of numbers scientist? Where would he be doing in Center
Yeah, I
County?
mean, I'd like to see his credentials, because I've seen a lot of scientists and experts over the last
That
8
was-
years tell me that elections were stolen with zero
That
evidence.
was my concern too.
Yeah.
And it was a really busy week with recovering from Helene here, so I didn't get a chance to look into it further.
No, I would
But-
definitely check it out. But I mean, it sounds
to see
it sounds like more likely people just voted for the top of the ticket because that's what they wanted. That's where they think the change is going to come from, and left the other stuff blank, which happens sometimes. We had the opposite of that sometimes in 2020, because some senators were down ballot races were getting more votes than the president was. And
Yeah.
so it's pretty obvious when you see something like that happen that there are people leaving that part blank and voting down ballot. But I'm sure the opposite happens too, where you vote at the top and don't care about anything else.
That's one of the biggest.
Probably.
I mean, look. If you look at the undervotes, even in places like Ohio, you could just go on to any of the Secretary of State websites and take a look at this. This is pretty public information.
That's where he's getting it from.
I mean, so there is even in places like my town over here, Bay Village, Ohio, has like a 85% turnout. We're like, we go vote over here. And there was like only something like a couple dozen people who did not or undervoted it for the presidential, but hundreds of people who undervoted for even the Senate and the Congress. It's so common just to go in there and vote for the president.
And by the way, it is not possible for them to know that someone actually only voted for the president and nothing else. All they can do is look at the total numbers and guess that that happened. But I promise you, there's people like me in that crowd that didn't vote for the president and voted for everything else down ballot. And you actually have no way to differentiate between if someone, like, for example, if me and Matt live in the same state and he just votes for the president and no one else, and I vote for everyone else other than the president, you're not going to be able to tell that either one of us did that, because if you just aggregated our votes together, you'd go, well, there's someone
right. They're looking at total votes and then how many people registered to vote, how many people actually went in there to vote, how many people pulled the ballots, how many people put them in there, and then the total votes, and they go, oh, this many people, 100 people went in there. There was 97 votes for president, but 80 votes for Congress. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, there's 300 votes for president.
You don't actually know how many people left president blank versus left the other stuff blank. So there's some theorizing there that happens. And I'm sure they're doing some stuff based on.
And that's not even a grain of salt. I wouldn't even take that as into consideration that people go in there and vote for president, because that's exactly what get people out to vote. I'm going to vote for Harris, or I'm going to go vote for Trump. Yeah. That's what people go out there. Some people don't even know who their congressperson is. Most people don't even know what congressional district they live in.
Yeah. And like I said, I thought this election would be swung by people that were low information voters. And I think that's absolutely what happened in those swing states. So speaking of swing states, in Pennsylvania, what happens is that because they still don't totally have their act together, I don't really totally understand the purpose behind this law, but there is a law that basically says there has to be a handwritten date, and the date has to be accurate on the outside envelope of these mail-in ballots. State Supreme Court holds that up and says, it's the law. It's clearly written in the law. Those ballots cannot be counted if they don't have dates or the dates are incorrect on the outside of the ballots, because that's the law. Well, 4 counties in Pennsylvania, these are elected county election boards, just decide we're ignoring that law. We are going to count those ballots anyway because we don't think that should be a law. That's not how this works, though. You can campaign the legislation to change the law. That's fine. You can do that. Obviously, you can't do that after an election, though. Again, this is something that if you wanted to change, you needed to change before the election. So they just decide we're going to count these votes. Bob Casey does not concede the race, even though he does not have a path to victory. His only path to victory is in hopes that it's like 80,000 ballots that they're saying are in those 4 counties. It might have been a little more than that. Don't quote me on the number, but I think it was 80,000 at least one of the counties. That were not countable because the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot count those ballots. And one of the quote, I've got to pull up the quote because it is kind of shocking. One of the county election boards, I think this is in Bucks County, says, where's that quote? I'm trying to find it now. Okay, here we go. She says, Bucks County Commissioner Diane Ellis Marsagelia, I don't know, I'm butchering that, but I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. And she has since tried to clean that up and say, oh, it's a misunderstanding. No, it's not. You defied the state Supreme Court, said we're going to keep counting these ballots because court precedent doesn't matter. Try to stop us. State Supreme Court comes in again earlier this week and says, no, we really meant it. You cannot count those ballots. And it doesn't even matter in the end, because even when the counties were trying to count the ballots, Casey still.
So wait, let's go back to the operations one more time, because I understand. I want to understand how this happens. So you have the ballots. Yeah. Then the dates on the ballots have to be matched with the signature on the outside of the shipping of the ballots. And if there isn't a signature on the shipping of the ballots and with the dates, then you can't count those ballots, because obviously it's not verified that these dates and these ballots match up.
Correct. I assume that's the goal of the whole thing. But either way, it all comes down to these dates being written on the outside of the ballot, handwritten, I guess, and also being correct.
And so the Democrats wanted to make sure that those ballots were being counted.
Right.
Who writes that? Who writes the date in the signature on the outside of these ballots?
The voters.
Yeah, and see, that's what this guy. I'm trying to find the video and I can't find it.
So wait. Let me.
That's what this guy that was interviewed in Pennsylvania from Penn State, again presumably from Penn State, is saying needs to happen. That there needs to be a manual recount, and that
Which
it needs
there's already a recount because
voter
the
record.
Senate race was within the 0.5% margin of doing an automatic recount. So they are in the process of doing an automatic recount, but so far it's not going to change and that's why Casey is finally conceded.
So wait, I don't really understand still. So inside the ballot, when this is for mail-in ballots, correct?
No, this is for
mail-in
ballots.
No,
But
this is
also-
mail-in ballots.
also-
This is mail-in ballots. So
Mail-in
80,000 mail-in ballots. People have the ballots. They write their signatures on the ballot themselves with the date. They close it up. They put that in the envelope, and then on the outside, they're supposed to write the signature and their date again.
I don't know all the details. I'm going to look them up right now, but I know
Because
that
the why I'm saying this is because the order of operations is very important. So if it's the voter that is missing this problem because of the design of the ballot, then that is an issue with the design of these ballots to basically negate these votes, it seems like, because I would never look for a date and a signature that I have to do or my ballot won't be counted on the outside of an envelope.
Yeah. So yeah,
if it isn't the voter itself, so that's a mass problem that they have. If 80,000 people can do this, that's a mass problem.
Yeah, it requires the voter to sign and date their ballot's outer return envelope. And so if the date on the outside of the envelope doesn't match the inside, can't count the ballot. Or if it doesn't have a date on the outside,
that is a massive design problem, and shame on the state for doing that and not acknowledging that. And okay, and while it's a law, I understand that, and I understand why they want to match both of those. It seems as though there is a huge structural and design challenge that they have that is now disenfranchising 80,000 votes because of an obvious, stupid design.
Yeah, so this is clearly what I mean, to me, what obviously happened is we rushed to try to fix things in 2020. They did some things that were probably not advisable. And then they didn't fix them in the 4 years between. And so that's why the state Supreme Court's like, it doesn't matter if you think this is a dumb law. It is the law. And so until the legislators change it, we interpret the law. This is the law as it says. We don't care if you think it's stupid. It's what the law says. And it says you can't count that ballot. And so that's why we are ruling with and so, yeah, Pennsylvania, if they want to fix this, fix it. If we think it's stupid to have the date on the outside, fine. I don't care. Like Pennsylvania figured out. Pennsylvania needs to figure out some stuff though, because obviously they're kind of they're a swing state. And it's ridiculous that Florida has as many people as it does, and we get results in Florida like that. And meanwhile, like Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, it's taking weeks.
This is one of those situations where, yes, I agree with the Supreme Court, and you follow the law of this practice, 100%. Yeah. At the same time, I would hope there is a class action lawsuit, and there is actual responsibility for a horrible design practice that is obviously disenfranchising 80,000 voters, probably most of them Democrats, because Democrats in majority vote early. This was on purpose. I do hope that there is action taken, because once you see a massive you ever hear there's a theory in design about like, oh, what is it called? I'll look it up before the next show.
I'm confident the government is not designing things in a way that it makes it easy for people. Because
there's actually something that it's called in design that if you don't know how to use it, it means it's a mess up. Kind of like if you do push or pull a door.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, we gotta go.
Yeah, we're about to lose the Tan Talk Network, and thanks as always for them for joining us in the first hour. You can pick us up by going to WWPR. For at least what could be our last show there. Go to 1490wwpr.com or just join us at yergsradio.com or find Up the Middle on YouTube and watch the video. Among other places, you can also go to mastiff.media. And Ed, are you saying we got 2 hours today, or that we just got to push for 2 hours here in the future? Yeah, in the future. Okay. Yeah, so... join us on 1490 or at Yergs Radio for hour number 2. I found the video that I was talking about. You can also find the guys at Blake at thehomelessconservative.com and Matt at dailycryptonews.net or info at deemerforcongress.com. You can get us all news, NEWZ, at yergz.com. 1490 is going to be joining us next. And we're also saying goodbye to WDJY. They're only 1 hour for us on Fridays, 2 hours on Monday, and we'll see you all then. But yeah, We'll see you back right here in just a couple minutes. I think we might be on 1490. There it is. Nice smooth transition today. 1490 WWPR. Some big news. And I don't know that I'm not allowed to talk about it, so I will. I mean, you'll find out why it's not really going to matter much in a minute. But 1490, our flagship AM station, may not be with us too much longer. You're watching or listening to Up the Middle. I'm Yergs. Oh, hold on, I got another overlay here. If it was you on video, had a bunch of things going on. 1490 WWPR, Bradenton, Tampa Bay, has been the first terrestrial station that Up the Middle appeared on. And that was less than a year ago. We've now grown to almost 100,000 listeners on Fridays because of all the networks that we're on. And we may have to say goodbye to our Bradenton audience. We just came over from the Tan Talk Network, which covers most of the Tampa Bay, but mostly in the north. So, Bradenton was kind of a nice addition. We couldn't get them all over the same hour because of some scheduling with WPR. But apparently there is a successful sale of the station, and it's to a Christian company who I don't know exactly is someone that's going to really jive with the honesty that we have about both the left and the right. So it will remain to be seen if you'll see us here on WWPR come December. Val has vowed to help as many transition smoothly to the new owners as possible. And of course, I'm hoping that is us, but we will see. What's that? Oh, that's me. Just checking some comments. So in the first hour, we were talking about Florida and Pennsylvania, and the zoo that is already the Trump administration, and that kind of carried over to what we're talking about now in the second hour with Pennsylvania and some election laws being kind of ignored by the left and the Democrats, who have blatantly said that why should we care? The courts can make whatever decision they want. They've got no way to reinforce it. Well, my counter to that, because Blake, of course, is up and screaming about, how dare these Democrats say that? I'm like, well, didn't J.D. Vance say the same thing? Sort of, actually. Let's start that hockey game now and bring them out. On the left is Matt Deemer, host of the Daily Crypto News, and joining us here every Friday, as well as on the right, Blake from the Homeless Conservative. He is not a Trump supporter, so I'm sure that I think you've called him out for it in the past anyway.
Yeah, and I'm like, just like all politicians, I'm just going to call balls and strikes. Like when you do something I think is good, I will say congratulations. When you do something bad, I will say I think that's bad behavior. It's like it's not that hard. I don't know why people have such struggle with this.
And this is yours, who says he's in the middle, but I think he's actually left of all of us right now.
No, because
TDS.
But when I got your text on Facebook, for everybody that's trying to figure that out, we talk during the course of the week, and it's usually Wednesday or Thursday, really, because things that we see on Monday and Tuesday are old news come Friday.
A lot of times, yeah.
But you used the words. What was it? It's right here.
Yeah, now I'm going to get quoted.
This quote is dangerous and unlawful as anything Trump said in 2020 or since. Yeah.
I think it's the same. I mean, look, here's the thing. Here's my point on that. I've called out Trump. Like, to me, the single disqualifying thing for Trump is his actions post election in 2020. Leading up to January 6th and January 6th. To me, and then to continue to say that the election was stolen. To me, you could strip everything else away, and that would be disqualifying. J.D. Vance has said the same thing. He tweeted earlier or said, I can't remember if it was a tweet or if it was in an interview, but basically said, if the Supreme Court gives us a ruling we don't like, we're going to say, well, enforce it. And I've called that out.
That's fine. That's good, because that was my only concern was that you were saying, and I just think Democrats attempting to steal elections should also be talked about.
Because here's the difference. Trump
also meaning that in addition to,
of course, because here's the difference. Donald Trump tried to steal an election in 2020. He couldn't get any county election boards to go along with it. That's why he was so pissed at Brad Raffensperger. That's why he was pissed at the people in Arizona. That's why these people were getting death threats from MAGA people. Okay, because he couldn't get anyone elected to go along with it. And the lead up to this election was the media. And I know I'm saying the media, but every individual thing, the lead up was, okay, if Trump loses, does he has the GOP put people in place in those counties that could potentially go along with it this time? Like, are there less responsible actors? So I think it's really incredibly hypocritical for all of that worry, which I had to and said, to have all that worry. And then here are Democrats actively ignoring a state Supreme Court ruling and saying, screw you, you can't enforce this, and no one's talking about it. That's what bothers me, is that elected Democrats are actually doing the thing where they were trying to steal the election this time by doing something that is illegal and the state Supreme Court says is illegal. And sure, you can say you want the law to change, but that's the same excuse Republicans had in 2020, is that they didn't like the laws that led up to the election. The time to change that's before the election. It's not after. That's not how this works. And so what bothers me is that people aren't up in arms about that Democrats were actually trying to steal this, and Democrats were the ones ignoring the court orders. It's obvious that what everyone does now is just, it's okay for our side to do it. It's not okay for the other side to do it. And I don't like that, because what my concern is that Donald Trump has already, let's start with the Democrats first. Democrats have been sowing distrust in the courts ever since Trump nominated enough people to have a majority of conservatives on the Supreme Court. I don't like that because, first of all, most of the Supreme Court rulings are 9-0 or 8-1, and they've been very weird for the last few years. You've got Amy Coney Barrett siding with the liberal justice sometimes. You've got, like, it's not been this, like, 6-3 thing constantly like people claim it is in the media.
I agree.
I don't like the delegitimizing of an entire branch of the government, especially the courts, because it is incredibly dangerous. It's one thing to talk crap on Congress.
You don't think they bring it on themselves, though?
No, they do not, because quite frankly,
I think that Clarence Thomas going on vacations that the entire court can't afford, let alone one justice.
They would never do it if it was a Democrat doing that stuff. If it was a Democratic appointed person in the Supreme Court, they would never do it. The Kavanaugh stuff was ridiculous. That was an absolute witch hunt. That was ridiculous. None of the Kavanaugh stuff in his hearings.
No,
was
I'm saying Clarence Thomas going on a vacation.
Yeah, I've got some problems with the things Clarence Thomas has done.
One vacation costs as much as 3/4 of my house.
Yeah, I mean, look,
there's no way
I have some problems. I have some things that I would not do. Same thing we talked about Alito. If I was Alito and she was my wife, I would have some rules that say, look, this is unfair. There are just some things you can't say in public and you can't do in public because we have to be above the fray of that. I agree with that stuff. That does not delegitimize the court. It doesn't delegitimize their decisions.
But at least as far as the scrutiny goes, I'm saying it brings it that they're bringing it on themselves.
That's not the scrutiny they're trying to claim. They're trying to claim this court is illegitimate and their decisions are illegitimate. Thomas thinks
I agree with Blake here, in the most part, but I also agree with Ross. Like, look, you have complete conflicts of interest when you have people paying for vacations and buying your homes and real estate off of you. It's just a way of basically money laundering or some kind of soft bribes or soft influence for, say, people like Thomas.
But
now we've heard this happen on both sides. To be honest, on the conservative and liberal judges, that there has been talk that this does happen. That is a huge issue, a very huge issue. But at the same time, I do think that we see in the rulings that there is less of a bias than we see that from a 6-3 split, like we said, than we thought was going to be there. That there are liberal judges siding with conservative judges, and conservative judges, in air quotes, siding with liberal judges in a lot of these rulings, or at least looking at the law and dissecting it and pulling out bits and pieces that there's agreement or disagreement on in a more nuance than I think that the media or the partisan politics is giving them credit for.
Yeah, and my point is that, like, we only hear about the big things. So everyone knows about Dobbs, but no one knows that, like, Kavanaugh writes the thing that says, well, you all, these Republicans have no standing to try to fight this thing. Like, the point is, I think the Supreme Court's doing their job. Do I disagree? Do I agree with them every single time? No. Do I agree with every single person every time? No, of course not. But, like, they're doing their job. They're not illegitimate. I think that is an attack on one of, like, a third of the government that is the only third of the government that's actually, I think, doing their job pretty well, especially when you go all the way down from not just the Supreme Court, but all the circuit courts and all the, like, when we start attacking the courts and judges, my concern is that now it allows anyone to say anything's illegitimate. And I think you will see Donald Trump and JD Vance at some point. They're like, Donald Trump is pissed that he thought that he was going to get loyalists when he put these people on the court, and he hasn't, and it pissed him off because that's what he wants is loyalists. They're going to continue to not be. I promise you, he will run into a problem with the Supreme Court during this term. And I think they will go, okay, well, show us, enforce it. And I think that's going to cause a real problem.
I think a good example, and one of the rulings that I know the Democrats really harped on, but I actually agree with, was the three standards of the executive branch job description. If you remember that one, I can't remember exactly what it was called.
You're talking about like for immunity, that ruling?
Exactly, that one. And I think we talked about it here, and I agree how they looked at it. There's three standards. Number one, it was his job. Number two, it's not his job. Number three, he had to make a choice, and we don't know if it's his job or not, but he has to make the choice as the executive, and we'll figure it out in court.
Yeah,
and everybody said that was giving him the power of being a king.
It was ridiculous.
Like, that's exactly how you're supposed to do it. If you're the executive, you need to make a decision. You need to figure out what the guidelines are. And honestly, those three guidelines that came from the Supreme Court were so simple that that's exactly what you want out of law.
I agree.
but what they're not addressing, and the Supreme Court never does. They always push it down to the lower court. Is the things that have actually fallen into those three categories, such as conducting a witch hunt on your on your political enemies.
Right, but some would like. Here's the thing: I think they had a weird needle to thread because they were trying to go, okay, every question that came up, they understand they're framing it for Trump. The problem is, once they make a decision, it's not about Trump anymore. It's about every president, future and past. Because remember, Democrats and the DOJ is trying to prosecute Trump for things that happened while he was president, some of them,
Right.
and some of them after he was president. And so the tricky thing is, it's like, okay, I'm sure the Supreme Court's going, great. So if we say presidents aren't immune from official acts, like they can be criminally prosecuted, Donald Trump's next administration is going to go after Barack Obama for killing American citizens with drone strikes, even though those people joined terrorist organizations. They could go after FDR for like you could.
That's one of our biggest. That was our example last time, is the internment camps. It's like, in that situation, is it the job of the president to protect the American people? Yes. Is this a constitutional thing to do to American people and citizens that just immigrated or immigrated over to the U.S.? That is a very, very, very tricky question. And in hindsight, everybody could say it's wrong. At the time,
right?
What are you doing if you just got attacked in Pearl Harbor and you're entering into on the global stage of World War II?
And that's the problem: is presidents are having to making the hard decision in the moment. And I mean, okay, do you guys watch The Diplomat at all on Netflix?
No, should we?
Like
I like it. It's good. It's fun.
I don't like watching stuff like that either. But Ross.
But anyway, it has a great line with the president where it says, "Nothing gets to me unless it's 49-51." Like, basically, if it's a 60-40 thing, it's someone else on the staff is taking care of it. So everything gets to the president's desk is a 49-51 problem. And he was basically saying, and you've got 51 and I'm 49, so you win, I lose, kind of thing. But because that's how tough these decisions are. They are not clear. I mean, some of the stuff that the president decides is clear, but for the most part, he's making very tough decisions. Okay. We've got to give some latitude to say the Supreme Court could come in and say what you did was illegal and it can't stand, but we're not going to criminally prosecute you, the president, for any official acts. I think Matt's right. I think they got that right in the sense that if it is an official act of the president, in the sense that it is in his job description. So it is, for example, that's why they had to drop the part on the charges where he was trying to get his attorney general fired, because that's within the president's job description. He can fire and hire who he wants. That is his purview. So that's why they had to drop that part of it where they were trying to, he was trying to, get rid of, put someone in there, because that's his job. He can put whoever he wants in there.
So where this all stemmed from is our conversation about delegitimizing the judicial branch, but as well as other branches of the government.
Yeah.
From them doing their job. And I think that you're right, that this is a dangerous thing. I mean, and I think that, and gosh, I feel like I'm turning MAGA every day here by saying some of these things.
No, I think you're saying the normal.
But what I want to say, I didn't even say anything yet, Blake. Hold on. But what I do think is the Democrats did start this when it came to, the Republicans started this with Stop the Steal, sort of thing. And then now the Democrats are playing into that playbook. And again, I think this comes back to a lack of moral clarity from a party and what they stand for to move the Democrat platform forward. And I think if playing this game is further going to delegitimize these institutions, we are playing the same game, and it's a dangerous game now.
And I think you're right. I don't think there's anything MAGA about it. I think it's reasonable to say that.
Well, I thought I was going to say something else, but then I realized I was coming from the.
No, the problem is almost everyone is going, both parties, and are going, okay, we've got to do the crazy thing, because if we don't, they will. That's essentially what has been happening, tit for tat, back and forth, and sometimes preemptively. So sometimes it's not that Democrats do the bad thing, so then Republicans feel like they have permission to do the bad thing. Sometimes they get so hyped up on this is going to be the last election, democracy is going to end, that they go, well, because, for example, if I really thought democracy was going to end, if I really thought the fate of the country was, you take FDR's example of Japanese internment or something like that. If you really thought what you were doing was protecting the country and the maybe we don't exist anymore, then I would give you more leeway to do something that you maybe even know is not constitutional or illegal. The problem is people are now shredding the Constitution preemptively based on not what has happened. We haven't been attacked by Japanese. They're like theorizing that we might get attacked by Japanese. So we're going to put people, that's the difference now, is like they're preemptively putting people in internment camps. I'm using this as a metaphor, but they're doing it preemptively instead of waiting for the bad thing to happen and then reacting to it. And that's what concerns me, is that I don't want to go full in on the lawfare weaponization of the Justice Department, but it is very clear that there was a weaponization of the Justice Department and some of these prosecutorial things against Donald Trump. Not all of them, but like the New York thing, I think was a sham. And I think that some of the stuff that went on in the Department of Justice is at least shady enough that I go, you weren't being above board. But that's now giving Trump permission to try to do the same thing by nominating Gates. And fortunately, it didn't work out. But you can tell that that's what he wanted to do, is like, well, if you guys are going to do it, I'm going to do it 110%. And that's what bothers me.
Yeah. But you don't think he's started any of that, though? You think
No,
this is
because Donald Trump goes into office, he wins fair and fair in 2016, and the next 2 years.
That's not true. Even the Republican Senate, the Republican Congress in 2021 and 2022 has admitted there was Russian interference in 2016.
It did not sway the election at all, Jurg.
How do you know?
There's no evidence, because they bought like $5,000 worth of Facebook ads.
That's not true. All that debunked stuff has been debunked. There actually was Russian interference.
No, in no voting stuff was there interference. Where was the
newer stuff that's out now?
What interference?
You have clearly not seen.
Tell me the interference, Jurgs. How did they change votes? Did they change votes?
Well, let's find out.
They did not change votes. They tried to get into voting systems. They did get into a couple of roles. They did not get into any voting machines. They never changed anything. All of this has been cleared up. My point is, the first 2 years.
No, it hasn't. That's what you keep jumping on. And you're going by like the FBI guy and all that stuff. You're not going on modern stuff. So when I say modern, I mean recent.
You've still not told me anything that Russians changed about the election in 2016.
I'm looking it up right now.
Well, you should know it off the top of your head if you're claiming it, Yerks.
No, because I just calling on the.
I'm just saying he won fair and square in 2016, and then we went into this Russian collusion stuff, which the Steele dossier was complete BS. We relied on it. The intelligence community knew it was BS and backed it anyway. So DOJ, FBI, they have a lot of crap to deal with, and they do need their houses cleaned for sure. And it's improved a little bit over the last couple of years.
Your house is not clean. Stop saying that. It's not true. Stop being a MAGA.
I'm not being a MAGA. I'm telling you, the FBI behaved badly in 2016. You cannot have senior people in the FBI texting each other on government devices saying, we've got to stop this guy. And like, that's not okay for someone in the FBI to be doing. It's fine to say, we're going to investigate him if he does something bad. We're going to watch him carefully. You cannot say, we will do everything we can to stop this guy. That's not the FBI's job. That was behaving badly, Yergs. And there's no excuse for it. That's why those people had to leave the FBI.
Russian active measures, campaigns, and interference in the 2016 U.S. election. Report items 1 through 5, together with additional views. Select Committee on Intelligence, United States Senate.
Yeah, I know they did stuff in 20, but there's no evidence that they changed enough minds that swung the election. When you look at the ad buy that they did specifically on Facebook, it like got dwarfed by both campaigns, and it was so clearly just trying to stir the pot of the sort of racial stuff. I mean, that they succeeded at for sure. Sort of stirring up racial animosity during the Black Lives Matter stuff. But really what they were trying to do is stir up people that had already decided. They weren't swinging votes. What they were doing is showing very anti-Hillary Clinton stuff to people that were already anti-Hillary Clinton and trying to whip them up into conspiracy theories.
Don't you think that brings out the bullet votes? Don't you think that brings out the bullet ballots?
No, I think those people are already voting for Donald Trump anyway. You go look at the ads that Russia ran on Facebook, and none of them are persuading people. They're all going. It's like they're all Breitbart looking ads. They're very clearly like you are.
So they look like all the others.
No, because I mean they look like fear. They look like it's all fear and crazy stuff, but it's going after a group of people that have already made up their minds, and you're just trying to hype them up more. There was not Russian interference in a way that swung the election. That Democrats can say it all they want. It didn't happen.
This isn't the Democrats. That's my point. This is Republicans.
Right. Obviously we're looking into how Russia interfered. We want to know everything they did. They were absolutely trying. If they could have done like swung votes, they would have done it. They did not get into any systems to do it. I don't see any evidence that they swung in any way. I mean, especially when you've got Hillary Clinton just not going to Wisconsin. That's the problem, is that Hillary Clinton ran a bad campaign. All of this can be taken care of if she runs a better campaign, and she doesn't. Like, boy, that's now if the Russians had convinced, if you can prove to me that the Russians convinced her not to campaign in Wisconsin, then okay, I'll say that the Russians interfered in the election, or at least moved the needle in some way, but they just didn't. And obviously they tried to interfere.
I'm looking at a search. Did Russia interfere with the 2016 election?
Okay, interfere.
I'm looking at
They
1,
did interfere.
2, 3,
Did they
4,
change
5,
anything?
6, 7, 8.
Of course they
9
interfered.
different stories.
I'm not
10 different stories.
I'm not
Different sources.
discounting that. I'm not saying they didn't interfere. I'm saying their interference did not change anything about the election. They did not get Donald Trump elected. Donald Trump was not illegitimate. And that's my point, is that Democrats calling Trump illegitimate in 2016 are just as bad as Republicans calling Joe Biden illegitimate in 2020. There is no difference between the two kinds of camps. Zero. Because both of them were elected, both for fair and free elections, just like 2024 was. And now you're seeing a little bit of this creep up on the left, not as much as I thought there'd be, because it was pretty decisive, but you are starting to see conspiracy theories now from the left claiming that Donald Trump was illegitimately elected in this election. It's not
because of Starlink satellites, man.
Yeah,
we all know that.
Yeah, it's Starlink satellites that fell out of the sky and stuff. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. By the way, Elon Musk, it sounds like, was going to be the fall person for if Trump lost. It sounds like they were going to blame it all on him if the ship went down. So it's pretty funny that
who's this quack of a data scientist? Who is this guy?
There's Tom Hartman, the Tom Hartman program, which, like we said before, is left-leaning clearly. But this guy is Stephen Spoonemore. I don't know from where exactly, but
yeah. Like I said, I want to see this before I comment on it, because I'm not gonna. But like, I don't buy anything.
Saxby Chambliss. Thank you very much. Chambliss here.
NBC News would know this.
Wait. Can we just watch this, Blake? Hold on. Please play it, Ross.
How long is this?
Am I teasing you too much now?
Are we really gonna watch 11 minutes of this?
We're not watching 11 minutes. You have a highlight reel, Ross, for like 30 seconds.
Well, let's. Right now, they're talking about other elections that had anomalies like this.
Okay, then we're not watching this.
Like, here's the thing.
That did have court decisions on them.
But can I give you here's what bothers me about anomalies in the data of stuff. If you notice, the week after the election, while votes were still being counted, you saw Democrats and Republican conspiracy theorists looking at the drop off in votes for Kamala Harris versus Joe Biden 2020 to 2024 as evidence. Democrats were pointing it as evidence that this election was stolen, and Republicans were pointing to it as evidence that the 2020 election was stolen. So they were looking at the same data point, which, by the way, was completely incomplete because they were still counting votes. We didn't have the count in California. That race tightened, and now, yes, we had lower turnout in 2024. But
I just want to remind everybody here that it's 2024 and we're still talking about something in 2016. So can we move on?
I agree. I mean, I just think all the election stolen nonsense is nonsense.
Yeah, let's see what this guy says here.
My initial nomenclature of saying it's a bullet ballot or a drop-off vote, I was conflating them. And let me explain what the two things are. And we don't know which it is until the ballots are actually inspected. A bullet ballot is a ballot which actually exists. It's on paper. Hopefully on paper, that only has one selection in one race. So somebody went to the polls, said, I want a ballot. They checked off one box, turned it in, left. It's called a bullet ballot.
Right. And typically, the ones we're talking about here are people who just voted for Trump.
Correct. Except that I'm increasingly thinking, in a lot of cases, the bullet ballot isn't there. The hack could have unfolded two ways.
Oh, come on. It's a hack.
The e-poll books, which are all networked, all online, statewide, and it turns out most of them.
Okay,
had
we can
very
stop
easy
this already.
access.
This is the same conspiracy
nonsense,
theories
Eric.
that
He's
the Republicans
talking,
are
he's talking
said
about
too.
Pennsylvania. He's
Yeah, I
only
know, but
talking about Pennsylvania.
He said
right
hack. The second he said hack, I don't.
Yeah, and he said everything's networked together. Like, come on, we already went through this in 2016, 2020, and now we're doing it again in 2024. And there has been no proof that nothing's networked together, that there has been hacks. And again, sorry, Dems, you got your butt kicked. We just go on and win next time. And it's not even it wasn't by 80,000 votes. It was by a lot.
Yeah, I mean Trump.
I mean, the
up,
swing states was like 300,000 votes. So it was kind of like, okay, a little close, but it was a lot.
Yeah, I just think that this kind of stuff is it's nonsense from the left, it's nonsense from the right. I'm all for looking into it, but like to me, the obvious case that this is not what happened is that Kamala Harris's lawyers would be talking about this right now if it was real. It's not real if her lawyers are talking about it.
I don't agree.
Why do you think they wouldn't do it? If they saw this evidence that the election was stolen from them, why would they not fight it?
Because one of the things he says, if we would have watched the video, one of the things he says is that the activity of the Trump administration leading up to 2020, they were going to say stop the steal, win or lose.
Well, not if they won. Just like they did this time. Saying, they were setting it up.
They were planning this in September,
of course, of
2020.
And they did the same thing this year, and it just all disappeared the day of the election when they won handily. Yeah.
Yeah. But what they did was they set themselves up, and I said this before, these campaigns have an infrastructure on the ground telling them really, the whole reason why I say don't listen to the polls, what's really being said by people that are going to vote. That's my what's his name? John Bon Jovi story. When I thought John Bon Jovi was a dick to me, and in all actuality, he was just pissed because they knew they were not going to unseat George W. He and the Kerry campaign. They have these people on the ground, and they know going into it. Trump knew going into it that he wasn't going to win 2020. So they did the whole stop the steal thing.
I still think it was a hedge. I don't think he knew for sure for a while.
It was a hedge, exactly. To set things up for 2024.
No, I think it was a hedge
for
2020. I don't think he thinks that far
ahead. He comes back and wins with the help of somebody like Elon Musk, who he had no contact with up until then. And now the Democrats have a legitimate claim of stop the steal.
What's legitimate?
Everybody else, you didn't hear the video.
I don't care. If Kamala's lawyers are not trying to sue for it, then it's not legitimate, because that is all these lawyers do. They sue before the election to make sure that everything's fair.
It's such a legitimate. You said yourself, Biden being taken out was not him doing it. That it was a coup within the Democratic Party.
It's not a coup. It's like that the Democratic Party is allowed to do
because your party won.
It's so great that the Democrats learned how to steal the election in 2020, and then the Republicans learned so good that they stole the election in 2024.
That's the real reason none of this makes any sense, is because you'd have to believe that Democrats managed to steal an election when they weren't in power, and then couldn't do it when they were in power.
That's what he's saying. That's not what he said. He said they were legitimate elections, even though Russia assisted in 2016.
Tried to influence, did not assist.
Finish. You didn't see the video, and all of a sudden you're an expert on it?
No, I'm saying the words matter. Assisted is different than trying to interfere in an election is different than actually interfering in an election or changing anything about the votes or stealing an election.
He didn't say trying or not trying or the votes that came through. For whatever reason they came through.
He's claiming they're hacked. I heard that word.
Let me finish.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, be fair.
No, he's not claiming that. That's the point. He's not saying that about 2016.
No, I'm saying about
2020. He's saying that there's the possibility that it was done in 2024, which is why all he's saying is the manual count that we talked about earlier, where the votes received at each location matched the signatures of those who registered that day, who came in, said, "Hi, I'm Blake Fisher. Here's my ID. Sign the book that you were there to vote." And that you don't know what Blake Fisher voted for, but at least the total number of ballots counted manually should equal the total number of signatures in the book.
I mean, there's going to be some
He's asking for.
discrepancy, but yeah.
That's all he's asking for.
Well, they're getting that recount right now in the Senate race. They're not recounting the presidential race because it wasn't in the margin of error. It was way outside of the margin that they recount for. So he's not going to get a recount.
Point that when these bomb threats come in to Center County being one of them,
Which were from Russia.
and Atlanta, which were again from Russia, it's a distraction.
Yeah, but they extended the voting. Everyone got to vote. It didn't prevent anyone from not voting.
It's after the fact. It's a distraction. And what he's saying is what positions were online would have been influenced while everybody was out of the building.
Well, here's what's
because of the bomb
interesting.
threat.
None of it matters because Trump still would have won even if he didn't win Pennsylvania. So
But that's what he said. This happened in all swing states.
it's
anomalies-
ridiculous. He
the
wouldn't be
anomalies
complaining about it if
are
Kamala would have
only-
won in one of those states.
The
That's
anomalies
so
are
stupid.
only in the swing states.
No, he's not. It's because
And
he's
they're
only
right
looking
at a
for them in
border.
states that Trump won. This is Trump derangement syndrome
Okay.
to the max.
I'm executive producer of this show. This is what we're talking about next week.
Okay,
You've
let's do
got
it.
a
I'll watch
week
the
to
video.
Watch this video.
Well, except I think I'm driving back next week. I don't know if I'm on. I'll see. I got to figure that out.
The next show you are here for.
I'm for it. Look, I'm just saying.
Speaking of which,
I'm
I
just
wanted
saying-
to
it's
buy you both a pizza today on the
Oh, yeah,
air
I need a
for
pizza.
having lost that bet.
Yeah, I could use a pizza for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to. Because here's my problem. Okay, going back to 2020, just so that I can harp on Trump and not on the Democrats for a second, because let's just be fair. My problem with the MAGA world is they claim all this same shit. Oh, sorry, we're on live air, and I see it, but
Yeah,
anyway. See, I've got a market.
we're out of here. We're out of here with that station next
They
week.
claim
Anyway.
the same thing in 2020. And they're like, oh, you can't do all this stuff. You got to have signatures on the ballots. They never complained about signatures on the ballots in North Carolina because they won North Carolina. Though they didn't complain about the same kind of ballot issues in Arizona because they won Arizona or they lost Arizona. So
that was my point, was that for every ballot that they protested, they didn't protest the wins on that same ballot that put their people in the Senate.
Right. And that's my point is that, and then also look at this. Here's the other reason that I think this is the dumbest conspiracy theory I've heard. Trump won.
You didn't hear it
I don't care. I don't have to. I know it's going to be dumb because here's why it's dumb.
because it's not your idea. You didn't find it.
You're going to steal an election for Donald Trump, but you're not going to down ballot make the Republican win. Trump lost three or four states. But they didn't because Trump, like the Democrat senator, won in I think 3 or 4 of the states that Trump won at the top of the ticket. That has not happened, by the way.
He's not saying this was a nationwide activity.
He's saying it just happened in the swing states.
Happened in the swing states.
But they only swung it for Donald Trump and not for the Republican senators, so that he could have a bigger majority in the Senate.
It just goes back to the Democrats as well in 2020 and Trump. It's like if you believe it's the Trumpers, if you believe that our elections are we have election integrity, then we have to go for it. That's believing in institutions and that's
that is
believing in
why
the United States of America.
Is not speaking up.
And if you don't, you're going to believe these theories. And honestly, it's a dangerous situation. I will say, I don't like talking about these kind of things because I think that they're not productive. But the more productive thing to talk about is that, do we think that there, with the 50 or maybe more, like even Ohio, I think there's 88 different ways to run ballots because every county. Yeah. Should there be a unified or at least congressional rules that create a guideline in the system so that we have immutable and countable ballots? And so we get the digital out of there. We get all of the USB sticks out of there. Everybody has a physical ballot that no matter what your process is for the states, that there has to be a physical copy somewhere for auditing. I think that's the way forward. Other than that, I think that there are always going to be speculations for election fraud and tampering.
I don't think that Congress has the power to do it. Now they can do it with money. They can incentivize by saying, hey, we're going to give you X amount of money if you implement a system that has paper ballots. I think really all I care about is paper ballots. I think that is that's the cure for all of these conspiracy theories. And most states have it now. I think I'm going to look that up in a second, but most states have paper ballots now and some of that is because like Jill Stein sued Pennsylvania after the 2016 election, I think, because they lost and they had to buy all new machines that did paper ballots because they were trying to do just pure digital. And I think that is dangerous. I don't think we should have digital only stuff. I would actually prefer it to be the paper ballot is the thing that you mark and then gets digitized, as opposed to tap on a screen and it prints out a receipt of sorts.
Agreed, 100%.
I think that it takes out.
I told you what happened here, right? So what happened is they changed the and this was, I think this was 2023. There was the mayor election or some kind of state or city council elections and stuff. Long story short is the Board of Elections changed the machines that they were going to use. And so there were all new machines at the Board of Elections. Now they did the election, and in this district right here for our city council member, it's a ward, the ballots were around 60% less than they usually would be, 60%. And we were looking at it, and luckily somebody was really thinking at the time, because we looked at the numbers, we're like, oh, okay, this person won, that person lost. If we found out that somebody took out or did not put in the USB that goes into the back of these machines to count the ballots, and 60% of the ballots were not counted. Now, I will say this makes me nervous, because the only way we knew about this is because the discrepancy from how many people live in this ward to how many ballots were cast, knowing that our city is 80% turnout, is the only reason we said something's fishy. If it was a 2 or 3 or 4% discrepancy, nobody would have noticed. And it's simple as taking a USB out of the USB little socket. And that is dangerous.
Yeah. Well, and we had problems. Colorado left the password for the machines, or the passwords for the machines in a CSV file or an Excel file that was downloadable on the internet. That was a problem. So you're going to get mistakes. Like, mistakes are going to happen. So I think what you need is paper ballots, and you need audits of every step, basically, to make sure that those mistakes don't happen. And we saw some of the mistakes happen in this election, but they were caught and they fixed them. We saw, now I also think that states should not have drop-off locations for ballots that aren't in secure locations, so we don't have them being set on fire like they were in Oregon. There's some of that stuff that needs to get shored up. I don't think it can happen at a federal level. I don't want it to happen at a federal level, because I think that makes it more suspect. Right now, it'd be very hard to steal an election because there's 3,000 counties in the country that do things differently. Now, going back to one thing you said, Matt, that I think we need to correct a little bit. You can't have different rules for what counts as a vote within a single state. So counties can use different machines or things like that, but they cannot, like, oh, well, you have to write the date on this envelope and we count those in this county.
No, that's what I'm saying. So like in different counties here, like some people have a touch screen and they'll just do the printout.
Yes.
Over here in Cuyahoga, we have the actual physical ballot that we run through a machine.
Yeah.
So there's just many different ways. And I just think, honestly, I can't stand it.
Yeah, I think
I think that is a complete failure of and this just shows like I don't know. I think that this is a complete failure of how
I don't want a monopolistic situation when it comes to voting, though. I do not want the same machines in every county in the country. I think that's dangerous. I think it does make it a situation where if like Russia could figure out how, or China could figure out how to get in that machine, they could actually change things.
Hey, Ross, you gonna share that link or what?
What link are you talking about?
The link that you have on the screen, obviously.
By the way, 98% of all votes to be cast on paper in the 2024 election, that's up from 93% of votes counted in 2020 that were on paper ballots. So we're at 98%. Let's get that to 100. I agree. I think everywhere should have a paper trail, so that, because you can't fake that. And by the way, we've solved most of the problems in most of our counties that we had, like in 2000 with Florida. We don't have the hanging chads and those kind of things. Most people have simplified stuff. We could still learn a lot from some states that are doing really good at counting. Like I said, Florida has to be the embarrassment that they were in 2000. And now literally, it's incredible how fast they are at counting the votes, at doing audits.
The whole system that they put in place for everything they do.
People should copy it.
I left here when I left here later in the morning, when I went to get my driver's license when I first moved here, and I was scared. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be here all day. I was there to the tax assessor's office, where the DMV, it's everything in one place, to the tax building in Port Richey, which is about 8 miles away. I was there and back with a brand new driver's license and the what's it called, the live scan or the real ID type driver's license, the sexy new ones, in 45 minutes.
It only took. We're still claiming the deadline's going to show up. This deadline's been moving for 20 years for the real ID thing. It's hilarious, but
I just got my real ID yesterday. It took me 20 minutes to go in and out.
So like, I just think that I'm all for, I want people to have faith that the elections are fair. And what I don't like about these conspiracy theories is that they sow these seeds of doubt, just like we're sowing seeds of doubt in that the Supreme Court's legitimate, just like we're sowing seeds of doubt that whatever. And I don't like it, because what it's turned into is, for my entire adult life, elected officials, mostly Democrats, because it was, 2000, 2004 was the Democrats claiming the election was stolen. And then you get to 2016 and it's the Republicans that are claiming that it's going to be stolen until he wins. And then in 2020, it's and I don't like that every election we have now has a significant, this is not just crazy online, message board conspiracy theories. These are being ran in places like Vox and HuffPost and it's Breitbart and it's Fox News and it's Newsmax. And it bothers me because that does trickle down. And I know very smart people that still think something nefarious happened in 2020. They can't tell me what, they can't show me any evidence. They just have this feeling about it. And Democrats, if that's the lesson they learned in 2024, they're going to keep losing, because it was the Democrats lost in 2024. It's the Democrats' fault. It's no one else's. They should not be trying to place the blame on Russia or someone, or they won't learn the lessons they need to learn to win. That's just
so Gates came out just a minute ago, guys, and said that he's not returning to Congress next year.
Yeah, and I was curious I read a couple of conflicting things about the legality of that. Could he return to Congress because he
it's a very interesting argument if you want to talk about, putting things through courts. Look, if he resigned for the 217th Congress, I think we're in, right?
I think that's right.
Whatever. I don't quote me either, even though I ran for Congress.
It's too high a number.
I can't remember anymore. But let's say he for this Congress, but he was voted back in for the next Congress. He was thinking that, people were saying that legally he can resign for this Congress and get voted back in for next Congress. So people were saying okay, even though he resigned, he could just pop back in. And
yeah,
I think
I read one thing that said that could be true, and then I heard another thing that said it couldn't, because the Florida law says that the governor has to call for an election for that seat immediately. I think the problem is there's a weird thing where there's no provision in the law for if someone steps down from their seat before they've taken it over in an election they won. I think that's the problem. And so
I think that's interesting. And I personally think that I can see a very good case for being dropping out in the later half of after you won an election and then coming back in for the new Congress.
Yeah,
I can see a very good case for that.
I think it was Forbes had a thing that said he couldn't come back in even though he had won that election, because of the way the Florida law calls for the governor to have to call for an election immediately, essentially. I mean, there's a timeline where he has to call for it, which means that election has to take place.
He was just reelected this year is what you're saying.
Yes, he was reelected, because every congressperson is. But the problem is that once someone steps down from, that's a state thing, state by state, everyone has different rules.
Yes, but calling for an immediate reelection or an election isn't that just to fill out the rest of his term?
No. That's for the seat.
That's for the Senate.
It would be, but it'll be for the full term.
For Congress, Ross.
Right, but it potentially has to happen before they're sworn in on January 3rd, I think, is the problem.
Right. Yeah, because Congress, like he said, they're all 2 years anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know.
We're talking about Rubio, who's in the middle of his term.
Yeah, that's different.
Then this appointment finishes the term.
No, it doesn't actually finish the term. It actually it finishes till 2026 when there's a special election to then finish the term to 2028.
So that's what happens in Ohio too.
Right.
It's an interesting part. Is I don't know why somebody would step down, have a vacant seat, and then nobody. I mean, that does happen though.
I know why.
That's always been my issue. Why step down to take Secretary of State?
Because he didn't want the ethics report coming out. That's why.
No, I'm talking about Rubio.
Oh, well, yeah, but he has.
Why would you step down and leave that, not knowing
he hasn't yet, though.
Going to be confirmed or not?
He hasn't yet. He won't.
Exactly my point.
Right.
But now, let's say something comes out about him.
Yeah, it could.
or it's a Democratic Senate that's just going to say screw you.
Yeah, but it's in
I
this
know
case,
that's
it's
not the example this year, but this is what happens with every appointee.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
step down, not knowing what they're really getting the
But
job or
they
not.
generally don't step
In
down until
advance.
they get the job. That's the difference. Is that the
What's
thing is
that?
they generally don't step down until they get the job. Matt Gaetz only stepped down because he didn't want this I mean, it appears that Matt Gaetz stepped down so that that ethics report wouldn't come out last Friday. That
Sure.
seems to be the reason why,
There's
which
no other
obviously
reason.
could also be his motivation for not going back into the House, because then they could release it if they want to. Now, I mean, I think it's going to get leaked regardless. I would be pretty surprised if it doesn't get. Now, maybe not. If he just goes away, maybe mission accomplished. They don't care. But I think that does make interesting, because I don't see Matt Gaetz as being someone that's just going to ride off into the sunset. Now, maybe he's just going to
No.
go get paid bukus of money to do the lobbying thing, and maybe that would make him happy, and that's fine. I would like him to be out of politics, frankly, but I don't think he's getting the Senate seat. I don't think DeSantis. I don't think anyone knows what DeSantis is going to do. DeSantis is pretty good about keeping cards close to his chest, but I National Review had a thing that said, quoting someone in DeSantis' administration, that says, no, there's no way he's going to do Matt, that he's going to select Matt. I think that there will be pressure from Trump for him to pick Laura Trump for the Senate seat, but I'm not sure he will do that either, because again, you got to pick someone that's going to get, there is going to be an election in 2026. Now in red Florida, it shouldn't really matter, but you do have to go, okay, this person's going to have to be in the Senate for 2 years. They're going to have to get elected in 2026 and then again in 2028. So they're not your normal senator that gets 6 years of leeway. They're more like a House member. They're going to have to get selected now,
Right.
reelected in 2026 and reelected in 2028. And so that's a different person you got to pick if you want that to stay a Republican. I actually don't think, if I had to make a prediction right now, I don't think DeSantis goes with like Laura Trump. I think that he tries to find someone that like is a happy medium between a
We
MAGA
talked about
world.
this in hour one before you get on.
Yeah.
Matt brings up a good point. He's going to term out as governor.
Yeah.
Didn't we look at that before?
2026. Yeah.
He just has to sit out one term. Like he could come back in 2030.
No, I think Florida's term limited. Like you can have 2 terms and that's it. I think.
I think he can come back, but even so, Matt brings up the point. He goes, "What's he going to do for the next 4 years?"
Well, I mean, not
He's
4
thinking
years.
he's going to
22
nominate. Well, even so, 2 years, reelects himself, gets himself reelected, and he basically saying DeSantis is probably going to nominate DeSantis.
I don't think so. I mean, it sounds like he doesn't have interest in being a senator. Most people don't want to go from governor to senator. I think he wants to be president. And I think anything DeSantis is going to do is going to try to line him up for running in 2028. I think that's what he wants to be as president next.
He's not going to win in 2028.
He knew he wasn't going to win. He knew he wasn't going to win in 2024 because he was the one that pushed through the bill that said, if you resign, speaking of this conversation,
and he changed
for purposes of running for another office and you're unsuccessful, you can come back to your prior office.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Who's going to do that knowing they're going to be nominated to be the Republican nominee?
Well, it was a hedge. I mean, I don't think he knew. I think he wanted to be, but I think he knew it was going to be an uphill battle against Trump. I think the difference is Trump's not going to be on the ballot in 2028. And so and keep in mind, he could end up in Trump's administration. These people are not going to last that are in. I mean, look, Matt Gaetz lasted 8 days as a nominee. He didn't even get a try.
It's less than a Scaramucci.
It's less than a Scaramucci. It's now
it's 0.7 Scaramucci's.
And so, look, I think that there's no way that this cabinet is going to stick around for the entirety of it for even 2 years. And so there's going to be cabinet openings too. I'd be curious to see if anyone that ran against Donald Trump in the presidential primary gets any job other than Doug Burnham. But Doug Burnham's such like a wet rag that I don't like. He's not a threat, but DeSantis is a threat to JD Vance and Donald Trump. He's not going to get, I don't think, a job in the administration. But I'm just saying there are lots of things that DeSantis could do from 2026 to 2028 while he's not the governor, leading up to wanting to run for president in 2028. Now, everyone just assumes JD Vance is the next in line. Depending how Trump's term goes and how we may look, Joe Biden only was president for fewer than 8 months before his approval rating tanked, because the Afghanistan withdrawal was a nightmare. It might not take long to see a disaster in the Trump administration that's similar, that tanks Republicans' chances of holding the Senate and the House in the midterms, and tanks Republicans' chances of winning the White House in 2028. Like, it might not take that long. Joe Biden essentially sank his entire presidency in the first 8 months of his presidency, and by passing the massive amounts of spending that we didn't need that caused more inflation, and withdrawing from Afghanistan. And basically 8 months in, the American public was like, we don't like this guy anymore. I think Trump can run that same road if he's not careful. And I think he probably will do that, because so far he's been a little reckless in even just these cabinet picks. And there's going to be so much infighting within his White House. I mean, like, you're already hearing stories about that his chief of staff was not in the room when someone convinced him to do the Gates thing, and she wasn't even aware of it when he said it. So that's not great working environment if your chief of staff doesn't know who you're going to throw out for attorney general. This is, that's a problem. I don't see that it's going to go swimmingly for him, and it might have the door wide open for someone like Ron DeSantis to run in 2028. We really have no idea 4 years out, much less what's going to happen on January 21st.
What in the last couple of minutes, we don't have a lot left, but where's it at? Oh, there we go. Why can I not? Some of these. Hold on. And just Matt gave us another one. Elon Musk and the 100,000%, 10,000%.
Yeah, I mean,
but no, I think that if this is true, this is like something that I hope they look at. This is, if you click on those little pictures there, you click on and again, is this legit? Again, it's coming from Mario Nawfal. It's being retweeted by Elon. But if you're Boeing and you're charging, $25 for a screw and a couple $100 for a soap dispenser for your plane, then we do have an issue of gouging from these companies. And then if nobody's auditing and pushing back and saying like, hey guys, just because we need parts from you doesn't mean we're paying $25 for a damn screw. There's an issue.
Well, the Pentagon has failed 7 budget audits in a row. So
let's just say the Pentagon has never passed an audit.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter in a row. We're talking about
why that is, right?
Trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know why that is?
Why is that?
I think there's
Black
lots.
Ops.
Well, yeah.
You don't think it really costs $200. You don't think it really costs $200 for a soap dispenser, do you?
Yeah, I think
$15,000 for a toilet seat.
That's
$5,000 for a wrench.
For a hammer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for a hammer. Yes, exactly.
I don't. The problem is, I don't think. I do think waste in government spending is absolutely a thing. It's like there's all the. I mean, Rand Paul's thing every year is absolutely hilarious to watch, whether you like him or not. Like, to see, like, we spent X amount of money to have monkeys do cocaine, and it's crazy some of the stuff we spend money on, and those screws and the soap dispensers and toilet seats and things like that are ridiculous. I find it very hard to believe that that Vivek and Elon Musk are going to actually be able to carve much out of it, because they don't have the control to do it. The problem is Congress gives the Pentagon a budget, and Donald Trump really doesn't have a lot of say in how much they spend on a soap dispenser once they have that budget.
No, I disagree with that. I don't know how it actually honestly works. But in your budget, you're allocating cash to be spent in certain departments. I do not see why departments are not auditing the cost of goods and then negotiating those prices down.
Well,
I totally disagree that is impossible. Yes, Congress gives you a budget, but that doesn't mean that departments, the purchasers, they have a whole staff that is there for getting receipts to talk about orders and products. It isn't just, hey, we're going to give you a price. That is part of the problem with government spending. And that's why that's why that we had that in Independence Day in 1997, talking about $15,000 toilet seats. It has been a damn joke ever since that time.
Part of the problem with the Pentagon, though, specifically, is there are only 5 national defense contractors. You can't shop other places. If they say it's $8,000 for a screw, and you can only buy things from Boeing because the security clearance is only with Boeing, and they're our defense contractor, and we can't spin one up. I think we need more defense contractors. I think we it's monopolistic in not a dangerous way for consumers.
Okay, so wait, here's what
a dangerous way for our defense.
I do agree. I do agree. However, I think it just goes back to negotiations. Look, Boeing's not going to lose this contract. You go to Boeing and say, hey, you get these prices under control. We'll continue to do business with you, but we're not paying this. Boeing's not going to be like, oh, well, we can't charge you. We're going to lose your contract. No, Boeing will go out of business tomorrow.
But it's incestuous because the problem is the government needs Boeing to get planes online too. That's why we've had so many problems with Boeing, is because the inspectors are getting pressure from the White House because they're like, I want to cut a ribbon. And like, this relationship is bad. It's all bad. It's all incestuous. But my problem is that Elon Musk is not going to solve it. You actually need someone that can come in and like within that agency do it. You have to have the head of the Pentagon doing that. Elon Musk can't fix it from an agency with no teeth at all.
Look, I agree with you that you need teeth, you need power. At the end of the day, I don't want to discount or disregard.
They agree we must launch a counteroffensive with a full nuclear strike.
Over American soil. You're saying at this point we should sacrifice more innocent American civilians.
David,
is that right?
Sir, if we don't strike soon, there may not be much of an America left to defend.
Sir, talk about David like that.
Taken out NORAD.
What?
It's gone, sir.
My God. The Vice President, Joint Chiefs.
Mr. President, we must launch. A delay now would be more costly than when you waited to evacuate the cities.
No, you're not going to launch nuclear weapons. You're going to kill them and us at the same time. If we fire nukes, and everybody else who's got them is going to fire. You know what that means? Fallout. You ever hear of nuclear winter? It's the end of life as we know it. You hear what they're talking about? Don't even think about it. I don't have to go. It can't be allowed.
Shut up, Captain. Get him out of here.
Hey, don't tell him to shut up. You'll all be dead now if it wasn't my David. None of you did anything to prevent this.
There was nothing we could do.
You knew.
We were totally unprepared for
you
this.
did nothing.
Don't give me unprepared.
Come on, Julius.
It was what, in the 50s, whatever. You had that spaceship.
Dad,
no, Dad. Yeah, that thing that you found in New Mexico.
Dad.
Where was it?
Not the spaceship.
Was that Roswell, New Mexico, yeah. No, you had the spaceship, and you had the bodies. They were all locked up in a bunker. Where was that? David.
I don't know.
Area 51, right? Area 51. You knew then, and you did nothing.
Sir.
I love this part.
Regardless of what you may have read in the tabloids, there have never been any spacecraft recovered by our government.
It's not entirely.
Take my word for it. There's no Area 51. There's no recovered spaceship.
Excuse me, Mr. President. That's not entirely accurate.
I haven't seen that movie in so long.
What? Which part?
Which part?
Which part?
But I mean, you're gonna have to have.
That's not the what we were talking about, though.
Of course. It was around that point, though.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like the waste is ridiculous. Now we could cut all that waste and we still are going to be in debt. Like that's the other problem, is that you could cut the entire discretionary budget and we would still be going further into debt. That's the problem, is that no one's really serious about that thing. I think that's our biggest issue going forward for the next decade. I think it will catch up to us, and like us and our kids are going to be the people that end up having to pay.
But also, can we just please stop discounting that at least there's an idea of talking about this waste and stop saying like, oh, he can't do it. I don't know what he can do or cannot do. And honestly, if I was going to put it to anybody, Elon Musk has said some crazy stuff this past decade, and he has accomplished more than most people. He's landing. He's catching damn rockets out of midair.
There's a lot difference when you get to the government, though. Private industries is different.
He's launching rockets through SpaceX, not because he's done it, but because scientists have put that together instead.
It's his company, and he runs it.
Okay, Bill Burr. Bill Burr. You have Steve Jobs running around eating a pretentious fruit.
Why did no one else manage to do it? Why did no one else manage to do it?
Do with it. He foot the bill. That's it.
That's important.
It's not like it's things that wouldn't have happened without him.
He footed the bill for them to do crazy stuff, Yerks, to say, we want you to take off a rocket and then land that same rocket so we can reuse it. That's a crazy idea.
He also takes a girl who has done her job for her entire career out of college at Twitter and fires her on Joe Rogan.
Who cares?
She needed to get fired.
He does.
Who cares?
You didn't do anything wrong.
People needed to get fired at Twitter. My point is, I'm not saying I agree
People
with that.
People need to get fired at Twitter because you don't like Twitter.
No, I'm just saying, like, it was bloated.
You fire the top people at Twitter, like he already did by buying the company. But instead of firing some girl that was just doing her job every day,
fired half the staff that were doing a job that wasn't necessary.
Somebody that should be representing our country.
I don't look. My point is, I'm all for shining the light on this stuff. I'm all for looking into it. I'm just saying he doesn't have any teeth to change anything about it without Congress, or they're claiming some of the stuff is going to be executive order stuff. I find it hard to believe that some of it That's all they got right now.
This is you. The link that I put in there is you right now. That is you.
Yeah. I mean, I get that you don't like Elon. I don't love Elon either. I think that he's a little, he grabs onto things that are not true a lot of times. And
I don't get it. He's like Edison. I don't know. He invented all this stuff that everybody, what are you talking about?
Did he? Did he sit down and like, I'm going to invent the iPhone, and just sat there soldering, possibly welding, right? Didn't he have like a crew of guys helping him out?
Sure, maybe he did.
So why, when he went to those nerd fests, didn't he have like a chorus of scientists behind him who helped him out too? He walked out like he was Tesla, like tapping into electricity.
I'm not with you.
I think he just kind of like told people what to invent. Like he just kind of came in like, I want my whole music collection in that phone. Get on it! And all these nameless, faceless guys.
Yeah.
Made it happen.
Yeah.
And then they have the big nerd concert, and he goes out there by himself. No belt, sneakers on. I just didn't buy it.
It's the craziest rant.
It isn't though.
Craziest rant.
That's true.
I don't like, and the way they
do I walk out on this show with all the writers and stuff? No, and I never will.
That's the exact same thing. That's exactly right. It's like that person at the head absolutely matters, and to pretend that it doesn't is like look at Jeep right now. Jeep is
what you're saying is because you guys are much more versed in politics than I am. I'll admit that. I'm still the reason why this show is so cool.
Because you're the
That's what you're saying.
But I mean, your massive media is your name. You should go flaunt it as much as you want. Yeah. Why? Because you made it. You put it. You're pushing it through.
Although it's all running forward.
We have some sidebar guests.
Nothing. I recognize I would be nothing without you two knuckleheads.
Yeah, but Conan's point is right. It's like, look, yeah, he's the guy on the show, but he doesn't parade the writers out in front of him. And like, that's the head of every company. Now, most CEOs are not as famous as Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. That's a rare breed of like that level of CEO. Honestly, we don't like Mark Cuban, maybe the other one that's kind of like celebrity CEO.
All I'm saying is all the crazy stuff in society right now came from one guy that we are going, wow, he's really pushing some stuff through. If it's electric cars, he literally changed the game. If he literally changed the game. If it's SpaceX and getting things to space cheaply, he changed the game.
He did.
So I am not going to push it. I don't know who's going to be behind him. I don't know if he has an accountant or CPA is going to be helping out, going through all the books. But he 100% could push this through, and I'm not going to discount his abilities.
Yeah, and I hope that, I mean, I would love to see some waste and fraud and things like that. I mean, honestly, that's what they should go after is the waste and fraud, like, and not with gold toilet seats and stuff like that or whatever. It should be about like that we lost $400 million or $400 billion or something like that. I can't remember the exact, don't quote me. I think it was $400 million in fraud payments during COVID. That's a big number. There's
we got that.
Like that, you know.
You need to follow the Secret Service on LinkedIn.
Yeah, but like we've not recovered it. Like the point is, it's like
you need to follow the Secret Service on LinkedIn.
So when you lose money to like that should be the kind of thing we go after first, because it is like you don't have to fire anyone. You literally just go like, we got to close the loophole here where people can steal from us, and it's going to be little by little. I think it's a pipe dream for him to think he's going to cut $2 trillion from the budget, a third of the budget. It's not possible without touching Medicare and Social Security and all these things that Donald Trump is not going to touch with a 10-foot pole. But that is the stuff we have to fix at some point, or we're going to have real big problems. I think we're already heading that way. Donald Trump has the only mandate Donald Trump has is to like make the border a little better, fix immigration potentially. Although I really think it's mostly just like cut the flow coming in is mostly the mandate. And the other mandate is don't cause more inflation. If he does either one of those things poorly,
which by the way, his economic policies, every economist going says
So,
exactly what's going to
they'll
happen.
be inflationary if he does them. If he does tariffs across the board, they'll be bad. So if he's wise, he will listen to people that tell him, no, your mandate was to not increase inflation. If you do so, you'll be sunk. I mean, if he on day one implements the tariffs that he says he wants to implement, it will not take much longer than Joe Biden's sinking for him to sink. And then you'll see a different kind of, that's the difference, is that if you see Trump start losing people and support and favorability, Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House have less incentive to go along with stuff. It could be really chaos. So if he's wise, he will stop trying to nominate people like Gates. And if he's wise, he also will allow people like Marco Rubio, who I think is a good choice, to tell him no sometimes or to guide him in a different direction. I'm just not sure he can do that.
Because I was going to say, because that'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's been no indication that he's gonna do that, and I think that will be. I want him to do well because I live here. I would like the president to succeed, but I think that he can't get out of his way.
Guys, I gotta go make my muscles big, so I gotta hit these.
I gotta
go back here.
I gotta go make my gut big, and send me your mailing addresses, delivery addresses, both of you. I'll send you both pizzas.
Okay. Well, don't send it
to
me.
I only eat pepperoni, by the way. I'm a pepperoni guy.
Well, yeah, but tell me what you want. Same thing.
Well, y'all have a good rest of your weekend. I'm driving to Indiana tomorrow, so for the Thanksgiving festivities. So I don't need the pizza next week, but I'll do it when I get back.
I'll talk to you guys later.
So you guys want it today or what?
Yeah, send me a pizza, bro.
I can't do it today because I've I'm leaving town. I'll do it when I get back, if that works.
Okay, Matt, send me your address.
It's in the Facebook chat.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right, see y'all.
All right, everybody, great show.
Have
a great holiday, and I'll at least see you all next week. If not, we'll see these two in 2 weeks, and I'll see you guys then.
See ya.
Thanks for running with the big dogs and going straight up the middle. This has been Up the Middle. I'll see you again on Monday. Thanks, everybody.